Welcome everyone to Color Commentary. We are your pauper commentators, Michael Pitchick and Adrian Gonzalez. How's it going, Adrian?
Oh, good.
So this week, did you get to play any Magic at all?
No.
No, none.
Magic is so 2016, Mike. Now it's all about top deck.
Top deck?
Yeah, you just flip over the card and you see who wins.
Ah, gotcha. Jokes. Well, I drafted the new set again because that's what I'm doing now. I draft. It's fun.
This is our life now.
Yeah. Being proper adults. So you were telling me earlier that Pauper didn't fire. Is that right?
That is right. The curse of you leaving, I suppose.
Yeah, I was gonna say how many people were just showing up to make me feel like I wasn't wasting my time.
Well, the week after you left, there was a pretty big turnout, so I don't think it's that. I just think it's things are cyclical.
Yeah. Are there any big events or anything, or is it just cold there? Well, quote unquote cold.
I mean, there are always events for other formats.
All right. Well, I guess since my news isn't super relevant and yours is non-existent, we should probably just get right into the deck tech. And this was one you suggested that we cover, which has seen a couple of 5-0s this season, right?
Sure.
Did you do any research at all?
Do I ever?
Fair. So this week we're talking about probably one of the top 3 most important tribal decks in the format. And it's Slivers. Slivers are a tribe that I believe we first got in Tempest block and are literally the most parasitic tribe possible. They do stone nothing outside of interacting with other slivers.
Right. I think Merfolk in Modern is bad.
Yeah.
Or maybe you think it's good, in which case maybe you're right sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I guess Merfolk are similarly just like pretty.
Well, Merfolk, for me, the problem with Merfolk is that it's way too reliant on turn with Aether Vial, and the deck's a lot worse without it. And Pauper, we don't have that. We have the Slivers who try and make their dudes beefy. And really the problem in the format is that Pauper is such a good removal format that you can always, most of the time, you can just kill their lords and be fine. If you're in, the appropriate colors for it. I guess Stompy might not be able to do that as easily, but
yeah, and it definitely, this is a deck that, as we'll get into, it kind of benefits when removal doesn't line up well with it, because this is, I believe, the only Pauper deck that has Lords in it. And for those unaware, Lords are named after Lord of Atlantis, which buffs up all other merfolk, and it's just kind of become slang for any sort of creature that buffs everything that that shares a tribal quality with it.
And Zombie Lord. It's Lord of Atlantis, Zombie Master, and Goblin King are the first 3.
Yeah.
Goblin King, which is actually playable in Pauper.
No, it's not. Goblin General is.
Oh, okay. That's the one that's the same but without Mountain Walk.
No, it only buffs when everything's attacking. So it's kind of a Lord, and it does work along, a similar kind of angle. But let's get into this list. So Slivers, by and large, are universal effects. They all have some sort of boon that they grant to the rest of the Slivers in play. So that makes the mirror match for this kind of hellish because everything you do helps your opponent. But starting off with our 1-drops, Plated Sliver. It's 1 white for a 1/1 that gives all Slivers +0/+1. And this basically exists to stop you from getting quite as blown out by Even Cards Justice and Electrickery, right?
Right. It's there to pump butts.
Yeah. Nothing dreadfully exciting here, just kind of functional. Also in the 1-drop slot is Sidewinder Sliver, which is 1 white for a 1/1 that gives all of your slivers flanking, which is whenever they block or become blocked, the other creature gets -1/-1.
Right. It's a good ability.
It is, and notably it stacks. Multiple instances of flanking trigger separately. So that can be real fun when your opponent just kind of turbos out Sidewinder Slivers and you can't block.
It's not when they block either. It's only when they get blocked that the flanking happens.
Is it? I could have sworn that flanking was... Oh, no, I'm thinking of Bushido, aren't I?
Yeah. And that's for... Well, flanking still triggers... It stacks like Bushido does. But Bushido gives that... Yeah, Bushido is whenever they attack or get blocked or do block.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Again, the point is kind of buffing all your things up, making combat harder for your opponent, right?
Yeah, it makes your creatures hard to block.
Next, we've got Virulent Sliver from Future Sight, which is a green for a 1/1, and all of your slivers get Poisonous 1, which is similar to Infect, but not.
Right, because the slivers actually still deal damage to the player, and different instances of poison stack. So if you have all 4 virulent slivers out, each one of your slivers is hitting for 4 poison damage.
Even if it's just the 4 virulent slivers and they're all 1/1s. So it's weirdly better or worse than Infect given the situation.
Right, because you can't -1/-1 creatures. It's like Infect is like Wither plus poison, I just realized.
Yeah, and this I think it's the key wording of the first creatures that dealt with poison counters were really, really awkwardly templated in the whole kind of if this attacks and isn't blocked, then your opponent gets a poison counter. Next up is Muscle Sliver, as well as its buddies Predatory Sliver and Sinew Sliver. They're all 2 mana for a 1/1. All slivers get +1/+1. Muscle and Predatory Sliver are both green, and Sinew Sliver is white.
Predatory also will only buff your own slivers. It's one of the new ones.
Oh, that's true. That's true. It's one of the weird examples that doesn't align to the normal templating.
Right. So for those of you who don't know, older slivers buffed all slivers, and then the new ones from like M13 or whatever only buff your slivers.
Yeah, it was weird. They brought them back like very temporarily, and the old design is very definitely based on the aliens from the Alien movies, the xenomorphs, and the new ones actually, in a weird twist, kind of all look like the Predator. So
yeah,
fun little side note. But this is kind of the core of the deck, right? It gets to play 12 lords. And even just 2 of these get out of hand very quickly. And this kind of helps the deck just snowball absurdly. Rounding out the list, we've got 3 copies of Sentinel Sliver, which is a 2/2 for 1 and white, which gives your sentinels, your slivers, vigilance. And 3 copies of Spinneray Sliver, which is 1 and a green for a 2/2, I believe, that gives all your slivers reach. Yeah, there's not really much to explain here. Like, you just kind of you go wide and your things get bigger. Anything else you got to add here? I mean, just kind of self-explanatory, right?
Well, I think the Muscle Sliver is a 1 and a green for a 2/2 that gives all your other slivers +1/+1.
Oh, that's true.
That's my opinion of that card.
That's
my opinion of that card.
It's got that weird templating because the other sliver lords are 1/1s that give all slivers +1/+1. But minor nitpicks aside, for spells we've got 3 copies of Commune with Nature, which is a green. Look at the sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. Pick a creature from them. Reveal it. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Lets you dig for the slivers you need, right? 2 copies of Vines of Vastwood. This is a staple that we've covered before. Green instant. Target creature cannot be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. kicker of a green. If you kick it, the creature gets +4/+4. Lets you push through damage and have defense against removal. Hive Stirrings, 2 and a white. Put 1/1 colorless Sliver tokens into play, and 3 copies Journey to Nowhere, the temporary exile effect on an enchantment for creatures. So we've got this list. It's got some lands. They aren't dreadfully important to this. So
well, you
where
could
does
mention the
this
2
deck?
Colony Gardens.
The 2 Colony Gardens?
They protect against edicts.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting that this deck is running those since black has kind of fallen out of favor in the metagame. And this is a recent list too. This is from the 2nd, so it's less than a week old from date of recording. But
you keep saying that black has fallen out of favor, but I don't agree with you. Is this a conversation we want to get into?
I mean, perhaps not today. We can save this for another day.
Fair.
But
fair.
Yeah, Colony Garden's definitely in there to hedge against the edict effects. So where does this really fit in the meta?
Nowhere.
So it kind of has sporadic success, right? And it's definitely one of those decks where, for example, with Stompy, another sort of green-based aggro deck, it kind of plays a little bit more like Burn, where you have to keep the spells coming. And
the big difference is that Stompy, each of the creatures can be good by themselves, whereas in Slivers, the creatures are typically very weak unless you have a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, so you're kind of relying on this snowball effect because it gets very, very quickly out of hand. And part of me wonders if this player managed to, reach the 5-0 with off the back of red removal going up in popularity. Because, you've already got, 12 creatures in this list that pump up toughness.
And just to be clear, Bolt and Galvanic Blast are still very strong against this deck because all you have to do is target their lords.
Yeah, and once you target the lords, you then start pinging off the other utility ones. But if they can get out of reach, they can kind of stay out of reach indefinitely. So definitely toughness-based removal is not a great answer to this after the early game. Because, sure, them going I don't know, Plated Sliver turn 1 into Predatory Sliver turn 2, you can still bolt the Predatory Sliver and put them back to a pretty middling board state, but I don't know. I feel much more confident playing against Slivers when I'm on a black deck because most of your removal does not have weird conditional statements on it. But it's definitely one of those decks where it snowballs rather than, you need to you need to establish board presence, and improve board presence, and then you're good. Versus something like Stompy, which can kind of, as we've said before in the show, play like green burn. So where would you say what decks is this deck good against? What is this deck's prey?
It's probably pretty good against Stompy, right? Or maybe Delver, because you have access to these, creatures that are hard to block if you have flanking, and then your guys are going to be bigger than theirs, and they don't really have a way to meaningfully interact with you once the creatures have resolved in the case of Delver, and not at all in the case of Stompy, unless they're willing to bring in the fight spells.
Yeah, I'd also probably argue that it has decent game against control decks, just because if their removal doesn't line up well with you in the early game, you're going to snowball out of control and start chipping in for huge amounts of damage. Looking here, the sideboard, kind of what you might expect. So we've got 3 copies of Natural State, the green instant destroy target artifact with converted mana cost 3 or less. Definitely for affinity and to a certain extent the more artifact heavy draws of Koldatha Boros. 2 copies Relic of Progenitus against any myriad of graveyard decks. We've got 3 copies of Scattershot Archer, which is the 1/2 for a green that taps to ping each flyer for 1 damage. And that definitely is coming in against Delver and, again, probably Koldatha Boros. We got 2 copies of Sunlance, 1 white for a sorcery, deal 3 damage to a non-white creature. We got 3 copies of Young Wolf, 1 green for a 1/1 with Undying, probably more edict proofing there. And then 2 copies of Crimson Acolyte, which is a little extra, but it probably shores up that 1 weakness that you pointed out about burn in the early game, right?
Right. Crimson Acolyte, good card.
Yeah. Very expensive online, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if this is online or paper prices we have here.
I always put in the paper ones, and then...
Oh, it can't be that expensive. The total online price is only $12.
Yeah, so actually, let's talk about that. This is a dirt cheap deck. The catch is, from a collection building standpoint, most of the creatures in this deck, which account for half of the main board, are not played anywhere else. You play them in Slivers.
Your Journey Nowhere. Sinew Sliver is 3/4 of this deck's cost, though, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't. That's in paper.
Yeah, I don't know why exactly that is. I am guessing that it is likely because it was released, I believe, in Time Spiral block, and some of the prices there are a little little wonky. But
Right.
So this is definitely like, if you buy this deck, you want to play Slivers.
Right.
And while, like, for example, in Elves, like, there are definitely some cards there that are parasitic and insular to the deck, not on the level of like these cards where, like, out of Elves, you can play Llanowar Elves in a green deck. It's still fine. But with this, it's just, yeah, you're buying this stuff for Slivers. There definitely are some cards in here that have applications across other decks, but like the sideboard's all pretty universal stuff. So yeah, this is kind of just an interesting, aggressive, tribal synergy strategy. So if you were coming up against this deck, what deck would you like to be on the most against this deck?
Probably Demon Control. Although I do think the Affinity matchup is very, very favored for Affinity, and you'll hear me say that about literally every matchup because deep down I believe we can always win. But in this case, having access to the 4 Galvanic Blasts and just your creatures are really muscly, like you're dropping 4/4s and they keep parity with their creatures pretty easily, and once you pick off 1 or 2 of the lords, your guys are just almost always going to be bigger than theirs. Really what gets you when playing in Slivers is if they have a blue splash, and I see down here in the maybe board, we'll talk about some of these, and they can give all their guys flying or something, then you're in a little bit of trouble. But any deck with a lot of removal, I would say the Demon Control deck probably just shuts this deck down all day.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, because there's no real card draw in this, right? Like, you're basically being fed a card a turn, and, if your opponent's removing creatures pretty quickly, your clock's not, going on that nice exponential curve that Slivers wants to be on.
Right. Oh, man, I've been playing too much Hearthstone. I keep being like, yeah, you can just attack one of them with your creatures, and then the other creature's dead. And it's like, no, you can't do that in Magic.
You got to stop that, man. You got to... Well, sir,
hey, man,
actually,
Hearthstone, you can play Hearthstone on the can, man. That's what counts in my life right now. I'm a busy guy.
You own a laptop and apparently don't have dreams, because Mitgo works just as well when you're sitting on the toilet.
Mike, I sold out of all my Mitgo cards to buy Hearthstone packs. Oh, no. No, not really. For real, this is going to deviate a little bit, but there is actually a pauper Hearthstone community.
Is there? Huh.
It's not very, very big, and it's not very active, but it's there. Just throwing that out.
I'm not surprised as much. I guess I'm a little surprised, but it's interesting because do they have a way to actually filter matches at all? Because I know with Mitgo,
you would have to add someone to your friends list and then challenge them. And what they do is they use challenge to set up like tournaments.
Gotcha. So this is completely like logistics nightmare if you're
dude. To be fair, I went to the Hearthstone equivalent of a PPTQ, and they also use challenge. There is like no way for Blizzard to like. There's just no in-app functionality for setting up tournaments outside of the ladders.
Gotcha. I'm sure they're working on it because I don't know if you saw that article about the profits of digital CCGs, but if what they say is to be believed, Hearthstone's pulling in selling close to $1 million a day, which
Well, dude, think about it this way. There's not even an overhead cost. All you have to do is keep the servers running, basically, you know? It's not like Magic where there's a material cost to the printing and the paper and all that stuff. Like every time you buy a Hearthstone pack, you're giving Blizzard, you know, $2.99 for just data, right?
yeah,
It costs them nothing to make.
yeah. I mean, there's the level of like dev time and stuff, but like yeah, I can definitely understand why it would be more profitable. That and like you can definitely go infinite on Mitgo still, like. There are people who probably don't put that much money into Wizards' pocket through that.
Right. But the economics of CCGs and online trading card games is ludicrous. Especially, and the surest sign of the health of that whole genre is just look how many there are. There are so many like freemium card battler games out there.
Oh yeah, they're doing gangbusters. Because the weird thing about that article was I did not recognize like a solid probably 80% of the names on that list.
Yeah, just people play those games.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy town out there. And that's I think why people are so hard on Wizards is like, well, why haven't you done this yet? Like, and now there's that whole conversation about like, the next gen of Magic Online, and they're not telling us we can keep our collections or not. It's a whole pickle.
To be fair, it was not in the state of the program article, but I believe it was Helene Bergeau on Twitter confirmed that for the foreseeable future, Magic, what is it? Magic Digital Next? Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Magic Digital Next will not invalidate the investment you have placed into the Magic the Gathering Online collection.
It's just also like, we don't know anything about Magic Digital Next, like that's the hard part.
Like my real hope for it is that they've just been figuring out a way to basically make the client available on more platforms and, look a little nicer, but we'll see. Anyway, moving on to the maybe board. We had a
huge tangent there, but worth it, I think.
Yeah. I appreciate our tangents, but this is probably the largest maybe board because Slivers have been present in Tempest block. They've been present in what's the other one? Not Legions, Onslaught block. And they've also been present in the Time Spiral block. So there were and core sets. Like they've been in a lot of different places. And they're across all 5 colors as well, which while yes, the Lords are in green and white. Our first example here, Gemhide Sliver, is 1 and a green for a 1/1, and it just says all Slivers have tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool.
I'm going to say,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think this card is bad.
Sure.
I just think it's bad. It's like, oh, this is the one thing you need to make blue. I guess I'm just going to bolt it. And I know that it's a sliver, but honestly, for a G and a 1, I think you're better off playing Prophetic Prism if you want to play more than one color. Or that I think there were some sliver decks that were playing that land that comes into play tapped and generates any color of mana. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
The one where you have to pay 1 or sack it?
No, that's Rupture Spire. I'm thinking of the one that generates a colored mana as soon as it enters and then taps for colorless.
Oh, Crumbling Vestige.
Yeah. I think I saw a Sliver deck playing that. But it goes back to how like multicolored mana bases are tough. Slivers is nice because they have Gemhide Sliver, but this is just such a primo target if you play it and like, it has to untap.
100%. And the other thing is like, if you're already in a board state where this is going to survive most removal your opponent's likely to have, you're probably already winning that game, right?
Right. And so that's the thing, right? Is like you said, there are slivers in every color, but because the Lords are in green and white, there's not really a reason to run other colors because you really just want to beef your guys up. The best one outside of those is the flying one, which is a not Gale Rider, the common one, blue and a 1.
Yep.
Winged Gale Rider is the rare.
Winged Sliver is 1 and a blue for 1/1. All slivers have flying. And that is kind of the premium what would you call it? The premium incentive to go into a new color, evasion, and a lot of the ones on this list that, kind of holds true for. Next, we got Horn Sliver, 2 and a green for a 2/2. All slivers have trample.
Right. And so right off the bat, 3 mana, it is a little bit bigger than other slivers come, and it does give them pseudo evasion. So it's honestly not terrible for 3 mana. I could see you running this as a 1 or a 2 of it in the deck. I'm not sure what you could cut. Maybe the Vines of Vastwood. The card seems a little weird.
So in my experience playing against slivers as someone who primarily plays slower, dirtily decks, I don't know if Horned Sliver is necessary sometimes, because most of the time you just beat in with these huge creatures until they don't have blockers. Like, it's not... Most of the time, slivers, unless you're removing their threats quickly, doesn't care about getting super evasive on a 3-drop, right?
Right.
Next up, we've got Reflex Sliver, which again kind of falls into this maybe a little too late. Too little, too late. 3 and a green, 2/2. All slivers have haste. It makes your top decks live, but it also requires you to plan on hitting 4 lands and playing creatures after that.
Right. Let's not forget, this deck only has 20 lands in it.
Yeah. Which by pauper standards is like middling, because admittedly a lot of decks are very, very land light.
Right. But I mean, look at the ROI you're getting on some of these creatures, right? All slivers have haste for 4 mana. Great. You know what else costs 4 mana? Lots of good spells. I was going to say Mold Drifter, but that's not true. I was just thinking like a Seagate Oracle costs 3 and is, good.
Yeah. There's definitely like a premium on low cost, high impact. Now let's go on to the next one. Talon Sliver, 1 and a white for 1/1. All slivers have first strike. I have seen this run.
Yeah, I don't hate this one. It makes your dudes so hard to block. And looking through the list, easily could play it as a 1 of, maybe instead of a 1 plated sliver or 1.
I don't hate swapping out the spin array slivers.
Yeah. I mean, those are really a meta call. If you expect a lot of flying, they're super duper good. But I guess flying is really the name of the game right now. I saw a Stompy deck that's playing Leaf Crown Dryad, which is like, all right, you must be pretty hard up to stop those flyers.
Oh wow, that's an interesting one. I've definitely seen that in what was it, Tortured Existence back a while ago when that deck routinely showed up. Leaf Crown Dryad is a reach. Jokes. But next on the list is Shadow Sliver, another off-color one. 2 and a blue for 1/1. All slivers have shadow, which this basically says all slivers are unblockable.
Mike, every time I think there's a worse sliver out there, I'm wrong. This is the worst sliver.
There is a sliver that is legitimately 2 mana for a 1/1 that all slivers gain 2 generic. This creature gets +0/+1 until end of turn. So,
dude, Virulent Sliver. That card's so good. Or Clotting Sliver. That's it. Clotting Sliver.
But continuing on, Shadow Sliver certainly does exist. The art is awesome on it. I will definitely say that. Like, very, very weird. There was a lot of good art in Time Spiral. Yeah. I mean, they kind of all are, but this one more so.
Yeah.
Next
is it like escaping the Wrathy overlay? I don't really know what's going on. Is it a mirror image?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
Where is its face?
Where are the faces usually?
I don't know.
I'm just saying their anatomy is cryptic.
Yes.
Next on the list, one of the core set slivers, Striking Sliver, is a red for sliver creatures you control have first strike. So this is a one-sided first strike sliver, and a whole mana cheaper.
Less, but it's in the wrong color.
Well, so I at one point remember having a discussion with someone talking about either Gruul or Naya slivers, where you're basically splashing for this and our next entry and Bone Splitter Sliver, and you're also splashing for Violent Outburst.
Isn't there another haste sliver that costs 3 and is in red?
Yes, I believe so. Blur Sliver.
Is it an uncommon though?
I believe it's a common. If you give me just a second here, we can do our behind the scenes magic. And Blur Sliver is a common.
Yeah, so you could, yeah, okay, I like that a little bit better. I don't know if you're going 3 colors anyway. I don't know if there's a reason to play it over the green one, except, oh no, the green one costs more. No, the red one's better.
Yeah, the red one is 1 cheaper. And next we've got Two-Headed Sliver, which is a one in a red for a 1/1. All slivers have menace.
Right.
So the idea here would be like you're playing the sliver game plan. You have a sort of anthem effect for when you attack that also probably dumps a lord onto the battlefield for free. Like, I mean, like there's Bone Splitter Sliver, which is 1 in a red or maybe 2 in a red. We have computers. I should be looking this up.
No, just say things.
Yeah, just say things. Bone Splitter Sliver is 4 mana. Never mind. That was a garbage idea that I had. But like the idea here is like you go to attacks, you Violent Outburst, all your dudes get bigger, and then Violent Outburst hits like another lord. So everything gets +2/+1.
Bone Splitter Sliver is like it gives all your slivers bone splitters. So it's like 4 bone splitters.
It's a pile of bone splitters.
Yeah, dude, it's just a huge stack of bone splitters, and it's like you get a bone splitter and you get a bone splitter, and bone splitter is the best equipment in Pauper. So you know what, Mike? I think this is a spicy little one of.
The real question is, how do they hold them?
You know what, Mike? I have a question for you. Do you think that this is a deck that could use a 1 or perhaps a 2 of a Pith Driller?
No, it's not.
All right, you're right. Sorry, everyone. I apologize. I've crossed over into epic troll territory. Slivers is a real deck. People play it at our local F&M and do well with it. I just hate splashing into more colors. You know, the reason that Slivers can be 5 colors in other formats is because of cards like Ancient Ziggurat or Mana Confluence
or Sliver Hive. Like there's literally a Sliver tribal land.
Right. And so it's just so hard in Pauper where your lands all come into play tapped. And to support those colors, and like I said earlier, Gemhide Sliver is not very good. If your opponent gets rid of that, it's game over for on the multiple colored plan. I would say that if you want to play more than 1 color, more than 2 colors of Slivers, it would probably behoove you to run some amount of Prophetic Prisms.
Yeah, that's fair. Sadly, there is I believe it's an exact replica.
Mana Weft Sliver.
Yes, Mana Weft Sliver. Yes, Mana Weft Sliver is the same, except it's the new templating where only your slivers get the Birds of Paradise ability, but it's an uncommon.
Right. And even that's not really better, I don't think.
I mean, it's marginally better, but this isn't a deck that's super common, and I think part of the thing that benefits it is you rarely run into the mirror match, right? So the fact that you are buffing opposing slivers doesn't come up that often. Like,
right.
By and large, your lords are just going to be personal lords instead of both sides of the board. It's not like you're playing elves where like well-wishers get tricky when you're in the mirror.
Right, or any of the Elvish Vanguard or any of the other old ones.
That actually moves us into our discussion topic for the day. Tribal decks. So we've had a couple of blocks that were pretty tribal based, and there are a couple of classic tribes that have made their way to Pauper. Probably the most noteworthy of them is it's got to be elves, right? Like that's
right. Elves is consistently the top tribal deck in Pauper. Goblins is a deck, but the lack of Goblin Grenade on Moto makes it a lot worse. And
let me toss something out there. Goblins did really well in the early days of Pauper, and I'm recalling this from stories, not personal experience. Goblins did really well in the early days of Pauper because mono black control relied pretty heavily on Tendrils of Corruption, And being able to have the sacrifice outlets so that you could fizzle an opponent's tendrils was really important.
Okay, that makes sense. And that's not to say it's not a deck now. People 5-0 with it. It's just not a strong contender in the larger pauper meta game.
Yeah, and Elves is a dedicated combo deck that when it goes off is terrifying. Like it's
right. It's very fast.
Yeah. So with elves and goblins, they're probably they must be one of the longest running tribal groups that keeps getting tribal related stuff, right? Like there's merfolk in modern, but that's really like early magic and then what is it? Shadowmoor and Lorwyn. Whereas looking at elves, like elves off the top of my head has stuff from Onslaught Block, it has stuff from Alpha, it has stuff from Urza's Block, like all over the place. And Goblins is kind of the same, right? Like lots of stuff from all over. There's both these decks are definitely pretty all in on a lot of stuff from Onslaught, which was a tribal themed block. But
right. And that's where a lot of the good cards in Legacy come from as well.
Yeah. Barring
for these decks.
Barring certain banned exceptions like Goblin not Ringleader, Recruiter. The silliest card I think they have ever printed.
What's it banned in Legacy? Really?
It's banned in Legacy because it's part of a combo with Food Chain where you go infinite.
But Food Chain's not banned.
Food Chain is not banned because you can still do Food Chain Griffin combo.
Holy crap! Did not know.
Yeah. Again, like my lack of combo knowledge is going to show here, but I've definitely had Food Chain Goblins explained to me, and I don't remember a single thing about how it works. But with the topic of tribal, like, are there other tribes that maybe deserve examination? Well,
zombies.
Do we have any good like cares about zombies effects in Pauper?
Shepherd of Rot.
Oh, that's true. There was that slight tribal element to that 14 land black deck, right?
Right. The one you have listed here though is Soldiers, which is a deck that I've seen.
Yeah. So mono white, has a rough time at a lot of points in the format, but there is a soldier deck that uses a bunch of weird little synergies across many blocks. So you've got Soldiers was the white exclusive tribe in Onslaught Block, and you've got a bunch of these weird cards like Gem Palm Avenger, which is 5 and a white for a 3/5 human soldier, but it has cycling 2 and a white. When you cycle Gem Palm Avenger, soldier creatures get +1/+1 and gain first strike until end of turn.
And is it the only common out of that cycle, or are they all commons?
Gem Palm Polluter is also a common. The rest are uncommons.
Right, because I was like, I haven't seen Gem Palm Incinerator and Goblins. That would be good.
It would be quite good. Arguably too good.
Perhaps a little too good.
Yeah, perhaps.
Oh yeah. Just kill your thing, draw a card. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. I mean, you'd play that over Sparksmith, right?
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, guy.
Oh yeah, dead ass, my guy. Oh, sorry. Children, cover your ears.
So Soldiers also gets the duo of Veteran Armorsmith and Veteran Swordsmith. Their Armorsmith is white for a 2/3. Other soldiers you control get +0/+1, and Swordsmith is 2 and a white for a 3/2. Other creatures you control get +1/+0. So you usually only see the Swordsmith in the versions I've seen, but it definitely like again, having Lord effects are pretty decent. You also get weird stuff like Unified Strike. Have you seen this one?
It rings a bell as I Google it.
White for an instant. Remove target attacking creature from the game if its power is less than or equal to the number of soldiers in play.
Oh, please. It's actually not terrible. I actually don't
Yeah,
hate that.
it's like a very, very, very underpowered swords to plowshares.
The tall, reedy grass of the Daru plains rustles loudly in the winds, a perfect cover for any ambush.
Yeah,
This dramatic flavor text reading brought to you by Adrian Gonzalez.
they got real creative with some of the flavor text. We also got in Eldritch Moon, we got Thraben Standard Bearer, which is the 1/1 for a white, 1 and a white, tap, discard a card, put a 1/1 white human soldier creature token onto the battlefield.
We also literally got Thraben Inspector.
Oh, that's true. Thraben Inspector is a soldier. Huh.
Do you think she goes soldier girl up in that O? Watch her crank, watch her.
No.
O.
This is
watch
awful.
her crank that cluestone out. Superman that
terrible. There's also a frontline strategist, which is super weird. It's white for a 1/1. It's got morph, and the cost to flip it up is a white. And when it's turned face up, prevent all combat damage non-soldiers would deal this turn.
Oh my god! And it looks like a horrible, hideous mutant thing.
Oh yeah, it's quite strange actually. It's a little bizarre that it got typed as a human soldier when nothing about that illustration looks human.
It looks like some sort of hideous mutant.
The other thing that makes soldiers really appealing to me is Ballyrush Banneret. So 1 and a white for 2/1 Kithkin soldier. Kithkin spells and soldier spells you play cost 1 less to play. So
that's not bad. It's also a 2/1, which isn't terrible.
Yeah, like you're getting 2 power for 2 mana, and it reduces the cost of the rest of the cards in your deck, hopefully.
Also, Elite Vanguard recently got downshifted.
True. And do you want to know what my favorite soldier is? Porcelain Legionnaire.
Oh yeah, that's just a great card in general.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Porcelain Legionnaire is 2 and a white Phyrexian mana, so it's almost always going to be 2 generic and 2 life for a 3/1 with first strike.
Why don't you put this into the same deck with your Pith Driller?
Yeah, just let your opponent have game 1 when you Gitaxian Probe turn 1 into triple gut shot to the face. Just go real deep on that Phyrexian mana theme. But soldiers is kind of a weird tribe, right? Because it's not like super well supported. Like we get occasional random soldiers, like Aven Riftwatcher is a soldier. Actually, lots of Avens are soldiers. Are most of them good? Not really.
Now we got to do a soldier deck tech. I think we might have already done that though. Or did we just do mono white aggro? Or cyborg? We did cyborg.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we'll probably do for a soldier episode now. Although I think we just had it.
There's also Ballynock cohort, 2 and a white for a 2/2 first strike. He gets +1/+1 as long as you control another white creature. 3 mana, 3/3 first strike is not the end of the world.
Right, and there's also that hawk, that 2/1 hawk that can attack if you control a soldier.
Yes, War Falcon.
Yeah.
There we go.
So yeah, there's definitely a tribe here. Interestingly enough, this is probably one of the few tribes that relies on class and not race, right? Like most tribes are based on the race of the creature involved. This is probably one of the few that is based on the class.
Yeah, it's definitely like a weird one where it was the tribe for 1 block, and even weirder was in Onslaught. Black White's tribe was clerics. So you were even not getting that many in those ones. I'm also looking like there's like a okay amount of support for like zombie tribal. Like you've got like Clutch of Undeath, which is probably way too expensive and dirtily, but it's 3 black for enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +3/+3 as long as it's a zombie. Otherwise, it gets -3/-3. And as I read this, it gets worse. There's Cruel Revival. 4 and a black, destroy target non-zombie creature. It can't be regenerated. Return up to 1 target zombie from your graveyard to your hand. We got Embalmed Brawler, which has Amplify 1. As this card comes into play, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each zombie card you reveal in your hand. And then whenever it attacks or blocks, you lose 1 life for each +1/+1 counter on it. Gray Merchant is a zombie. I'm just spitballing here.
Yeah, you're just saying words now to me.
Well, I'm going through all the jank. Ooh, you get to run Ghoul Caller's Chant. So Ghoul Caller's Chant
Actually,
is black.
that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Black sorcery. Choose one. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Or return 2 target zombie cards from your graveyard to your hand. Gets back...
It's a raise dead.
It's a double raise dead, but it gets back nameless inversion as well.
Yes. Yeah, actually, that's not terrible.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're putting together some spice. Ghoul Razor.
Yo, dog, I heard you like raise dead, so I gave you a raise dead on your raise dead.
We got Ghoul Razor here. 1 and 2 black. 2/2. When it enters, return a random zombie card from your graveyard to your hand.
Yeah. At that point, you might as well just play Gravedigger.
1 mana less. Also,
yeah, that's true.
Is Gravedigger a zombie?
Yes.
Is it? Huh.
Yes, 100%.
Little weird that it's a zombie getting back other zombies, but you also have Gem Palm Polluter, which the mana cost doesn't matter, the body doesn't matter, but it does cycle for black, and when you cycle it, you may have target player lose 1 life for each zombie in play.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, I'm looking at this like zombies could be a thing, not like super tier 1 competitive or anything, but oh wow, I did not realize this. There's also Vengeful Dead, 3 and a black, 3/2. When Vengeful Dead or another zombie is put into a graveyard from play, each opponent loses 1 life.
I like that.
Yeah, there's some neat stuff, but when it comes down to it, like, are there tribes outside of the 3 main ones? Your not zombies, geez. Your slivers, your elves, and your goblins. Are there any other tribes really worth examining on like a serious competitive level? Because you can definitely make like more casual decks that, you know, are just fun for you. But
no, you're right. Those are the only 3. Like, Merfolk sucks in Pauper. Like, it's just super duper bad. Never play it. Or
what
what
merfolk do we get?
All the terrible ones that you've never heard of.
I was going to say the only thing I can come up with off the top of my head is Merfolk Looter and Merfolk of the Pearl Trident, and one of those cards is awful, and the other one is pretty good.
Most of the Merfolk bread and butter cards are rares or uncommons. Vapor Snag is probably the one you're most familiar with.
Wait, Vapor Snag?
Vapor Snag is probably the only card played in Modern Merfolk that you're familiar with. Like, Curse Catcher is an uncommon. All the lords are rares except for Mara Reedry, which is an uncommon.
Okay, so that one's playing out. Do we have any human synergies? Like, I can't think of anything.
Not really. All the human cards are good in like other decks, like what's it called? The one with Fateful Hour that makes tokens. Gather the Townsfolk. That gets played, but in like a tokens deck, not a humans deck.
So I'm actually looking. There's like a handful of things that buff humans. We've got Bladed Bracers, which is an equipment, 1 mana, 2 to equip. Equip creature gets +1/+1. As long as it's a human or angel, it gets vigilance. Cavalry Pegasus, 1 and a white for a 1/1 with flying. When it attacks, each human creature gains flying until end of turn.
Do we want to consider Affinity a tribal thing? As long as there's more of its buddies on the battlefield, it costs less.
Yeah, I guess if you really want to stretch it, I guess you could consider it tribal. Are all the affinity things at least constructs? Oh no, Mirror Enforcer's a mirror. Never mind.
Is Frogmite a construct?
Probably. It's probably a frog construct.
It's a frog.
What? It's not a construct?
It's just a frog. No, it's just a frog.
Interesting.
You know what I like to call Frogmite?
What?
Calfrago.
That's terrible. Just awful.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it? Hilarious.
But I don't know. So I've definitely seen like some buzz online about people like playing tribal decks in Pauper that belong to tribes that, you know, do not have legacy level support for them. But I don't know. It's definitely like a very wide valley between like even the gap between like goblins and soldiers is pretty huge in my mind.
Right.
And I don't know. If we had more lords in the format, and I'm not saying that's a good thing if we did have them, then I would see more of a reason to run some tribal strategies. But as it is, like outside of those three, there's not much that really appeals to me in terms of like winning games. If we want to talk about jank, wizards have a tutor.
Yes, a creature with wizard cycling.
Yep, Vidalcan Aether Mage, or
And
excuse me,
it has something weird on
Mage.
it too. Like if you play it, you bounce a sliver.
Yes, let me pull that one up right here. It is a very strange card. Vidalcan Aether Mage is 1 and a blue for 1/2 creature Vidalcan Wizard. It has flash. When it comes into play, return target sliver to its owner's hand, and it has Wizard Cycling 3, which is 3. Discard this card, search your library for a wizard card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. This is a doozy of a card. It's just, and it's also in the future sight frame, so it just looks weird too. What wizards are relevant for us? We got our Chaomancer,
Prodigal Pyromancer or Prodigal Sorcerer.
Prodigal Sorcerer and Prodigal Pyromancer. Oh,
you know, I made a wizard tribal deck once.
In Pauper or just in general?
In Pauper, it was really bad.
Let me hit you with this little spicy ditty. Lavamancer's Skill, 1 and a red.
Yep.
Enchanted creature
that was in there.
Deals 1 damage to target creature, and as long as enchanted creature is a wizard, it has tap. This creature deals 2 damage to target creature.
Let me hit you with this, Mike. Stony Brook Banneret or Banneret. Merfolk spells and wizard spells you play cost 1 less.
Oh, man.
And I'm not done yet. Stony Brook Schoolmaster.
Go ahead.
I have to look it up because I forgot. Stony Brook Schoolmaster. Whenever Stony Brook Schoolmaster becomes tapped, we put a 1/1 blue Merfolk wizard token into play. Now tell me, Mike, what does that combo with in our deck?
Lavamancer's Skill, and we're in 3 colors.
So good, dude. So good.
All right. So, you know, definitely if someone else has like a weird tribal deck that they'd love us to see, feel free to send those over to us. We're always looking for stuff to talk about on the show. But in our analysis, can we safely say that if you're trying to grind out wins, please just play elves or slivers or goblins in that order.
Yeah,
I feel
I cannot in good faith recommend the wizards tribal deck. I am sure we will inevitably get a comment about it. Yes, I have it saved still. Yes, you can see it. Just ask.
Just saving onto that so you always can remember the shame.
Yes.
But that looks like we're pulling up pretty close on an hour here. You want to take us out, Adrian?
On a date? Oh,
yeah,
at the show.
Sure.
Thanks for joining us today. Check below this video or the description of this podcast for details on where to find us. We'd like to remind you that if you're listening to this on a platform with reviews, they're always appreciated as they boost our visibility. If you've got a deck list or an idea for a topic, feel free to contact us either via our website or by emailing us directly at colorcommentary@gmail.com. Compliments also welcome. Special thanks to Pat's Games and L, the mysterious and enigmatic L. Find out more of his tracks at soundcloud.net/LLL. Until next week, this is Adrian and Mike, and we are signing off for Color Commentary.